Hello, Telekiose. I feel like I should start with a quick disclaimer. I am not a doctor, and if you need any medical help and advice, please contact a medical health provider. Any information that I give is based on my personal experience and my personal understanding of a mental or physical disorder or disability, and mine alone. Once again, I am not a doctor. Choose happiness. That is something that I need to do and I will always do. After being gaslit for more than 2 whole months, I have completely lost my memory and I don't know what I did for 2 weeks. I have been trying to piece together the things that I have done or didn't do, and I can't really remember much of it. From what I've pieced together, I'm able to remember what I did. It's not much out of 2 months. 2 weeks are gone, and I remember about 2 days worth of memories, if that. Before that, I was doing some reflection and potential diagnosis and prognosis of what might be wrong with me physically and mentally. Because I've had doctors who know what's wrong with me, I really have been failed by medical systems, healthcare systems, both in my country and in the US. Reason being that doctors know that I'm schizophrenic, which you're more likely to be born with heterochromia. Both of my eyes are brown. I wear contact lenses to sometimes mimic heterochromia, but I do not have it. It's really rare. You are more likely to end life with a cork, a shock attack, and being struck by lightning than to actually have the medical diagnosis of schizophrenia. The probability of having schizophrenia in the world's grand scale of 8 billion people with the B is 0.0025%. And in the United States alone, that number is 0.13%, which, because I do love statistics, it leads me to believe that either in the United States, there's something that causes people to be more schizophrenic, develop schizophrenia more often, and get the diagnosis of schizophrenia, or what is the most likely thing is that doctors overdiagnose people with schizophrenia. Out of 20 million people in the world, as this statistic out of 8 billion people, 0.0025% suggests, 13.13% of those cases are in the United States alone. So out of 20 million people, 2.4 million people in the United States have this diagnosis. These doctors know that I'm schizophrenic, even though I don't have the criteria for it. I've tried medication for it. It did not work. So on top of not being schizophrenic, potentially, even if I am, I would have to be the 20 to 60% of the number of people that do have schizophrenia and are medicine resistant to schizophrenia. And that's 20 to 60% of the number 0.13% in the US alone, and or 0.0025% in the world. By the way, the world average of languages is 2. There's about 1% of the world's population that speaks 5 or is fully fluent in 5 or more languages. I know about 5 languages because that's the number that I feel comfortable in saying. I know more than that, but I feel comfortable at saying 5, which means that I'm actually more likely to speak multiple languages than being schizophrenic. But doctors know that I'm schizophrenic. Doctors, they know. There is a greater probability for you to come across a person who speaks more than 5 languages than a person with schizophrenia. That's how rare it is. I speak more than 5 languages. I know more than 5 languages. I will never be fully fluent because of dyslexia, but I have the knowledge of more than 5 languages. I consider myself multilingual, but the proper word for it is a polyglot. And I am that 1% of people that are fluent slash understand more than 5 languages. The thing that really bothers me is that doctors somehow know that I'm schizophrenic and I must be, when that's really rare. Just like when a person looks at me, they know I'm Hispanic and I must speak Spanish. None of those are true. Once again, I am not a doctor, which is why I included the disclaimer in the beginning of the video, but in my personal opinion, in my personal experience, in my dealing with my multiple sclerosis, I have found a series of supplements slash things that I could do and things to avoid that help me with my multiple sclerosis and the pain and the off balance and the lack of bladder control from MS. I used to consume a lot of sugar, a ridiculous amount of sugar. A few years ago, I would say about 5 to 7 years ago, I started moving away from sugar because I knew that that much sugar could not be good for me, especially when diabetes runs in my family, which my family does not. They do not run. My family, they're not like unhealthy, but they're not the healthiest group of people, physically or mentally. So about 7 years ago, I started to focus on my health and try to move towards a more vegan, plant-based diet. I am not vegan. I do not claim to be. And honestly, my interaction with vegans has made me not want to be and to eat little baby tortured cows, aka veal. As I move away from animal-based products such as dairy, milk, and replace dairy with almond milk or milk alternatives, I have felt a lot better, a lot happier, a lot lighter, and I've noticed that I've lost a lot of weight. If you look back into my videos before I went disappearing for 2 years, you can actually see them a little bit thinner now than I was before, and that's just because of change of diet and as well as my ED type 2. It sort of flared up. With the new diet changes and supplements that I've been taking, my movement has vastly improved, and so has my psychiatric issues. They've lessened, but not completely go away, because I've been dealing with this majority of my life. Like 85% of the time that I've been here on Earth, I've been dealing with psychiatric issues such as, but not limited to, depression and PTSD. I have been again diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and in my type of MS seems to be the remitting type, and I cannot stress how important it is to ask a doctor what type you have and what exactly is it. Doctors failed me once again, and I have done a lot of research prior to even being aware of what it is, prior to knowing what it was, prior to being diagnosed, prior to having an MS scan of my brain, not MS, MRI scan of my brain. I have kind of pieced together that that might be the possibility, and so I was already trying to combat the symptoms or the muscle weakness, the memory loss, the speech impairments due to the fact that my brain is getting damaged by immune system. And the medicine for this thing that I have, multiple sclerosis, is in my specific case because the insurance company does not want to offer me the supplements where I get to stay away from hospitals, which are inundated and and overrun. They're inundated and overrun by people with the big COVID-19. I do not feel safe taking an immunosuppressant in a hospital during a global pandemic. Just like I don't. And so I'm not, on top of not being able to get to the hospital, which kind of works out in a way. While taking these new supplements, my mobility was completely beforehand. My mobility was completely shot. On my good days of dealing with my multiple sclerosis, aka damaged brain, I'd have to walk with a cane. That's how bad it was. On a good day. On a bad day, I am wheelchair bound. I cannot walk on my own. It's just an extreme amount of pain, and my mobility and flexibility is non existent. Day one of these two new supplements, I wasn't beforehand, I wasn't able to lift my legs while lying down. I wasn't able to lift my leg more than 5 degrees because it was really painful. It hurt a lot, and I couldn't actually, while standing, lift my leg much further than a couple of inches off the floor. I couldn't lift my leg more than like 13 centimeters off the floor. That's about 5 inches if you have problems with conversions. And you're not using the metric system or the imperial system. I don't know which one is which. Then again, English is my fourth language. I apologize. On day two, I was able to lift my leg about 45 degrees, and I was able to lift my legs a little bit more, which the pain started subsiding by a lot. On day three, I was about able to lift my legs 70 to 80 degrees, and that was with extreme strain on myself. It was a little bit painful to do it that far, but I was able to do that, which I have not been able to lift my leg that far in about 7 years. I think it's extra painful for me because I used to be physically active. I used to try to exercise, to eat more because I was dealing with my ED type 2 and just wanted to be a little bit healthier, cut down the sugar, drink more water, because before I didn't drink water. I would avoid water. And now I'm drinking so much water that I wake up parched and needing water. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I will wake up and my mouth will feel like drier than the Sahara Desert as I hope, hope to drink some water and try to drink some water. Happy thoughts. And when I say I do my own research, I mean I do extensive, in-depth research for multiple years, with supplements and food being something that I usually will take about 1 to 2 years. And not just for my mental health, but my physical health as well. Again, I did this research on MS, and that's why I took these two supplements, and that's why I've had a vast improvement on my physical health. And when I go back to starting to take the Ocrevus, I will then continue to take these supplements because they can only help. I'm also choosing happiness. I am forcing happiness because I've been in a rut for the past 3 months when my family is still gaslighting me that 0 does not equal 0, that I must be lying, and I somehow have the ability to control the postal service and when someone else does something, like misspell my name. My MS has been a little bit manageable because I've been taking these supplements for about 21 days. And I say about because I've missed a couple. Realistically, it's been like 19 days actually of taking the supplements. I've made this no secret, and I don't plan on making it a secret ever, that I have physical and mental health issues. With that comes the strain and responsibility of taking care of myself before I make a video. Even though I want to make a video, I tried to make this video on day 3 of taking these supplements, and now I'm like on day 21. Again, because life has always pitched curveballs at me, and I've actually gotten a little bit better at predicting when it's coming and hitting them. Home run, baby. Home runs. I am still trying to deal with my family. My family has been gaslighting me since June, July, non-stop. They didn't stop for those months. They sort of stopped for like a day or two, and they're back at it again in September. I've jokingly said to my therapist, I have no idea how long it's been. 3 months. And my therapist agreed, yes, it's been 3 months because you've been talking about this for 3 months, and I'm honestly starting to understand why you have some of the issues you claim to have, especially when it comes to your family. Happy thoughts. I have been less depressed, which at this point in my life, it's considered dysthymia. It is no longer depression. I, however, have not been diagnosed with dysthymia and have been diagnosed with depression, so I will call it depression. I have been forcing myself to eat 2 meals a day. Again, I have ED type 2, so I do have to force myself to eat something, or I don't. Also, supplements and medications is more effective on a full stomach as opposed to an empty one. Happy thoughts. Since life has always done this, not always me, but life has, it's seemingly, other people have noticed this too, that every time something is going okay in my life, it's like a curveball gets thrown at me, and I was trying so hard not to have a full-blown mental breakdown that I expended all that energy trying to keep myself safe and sane, and so I didn't have the energy to record the video, edit it, and upload it. I tried, but this is the 100th that I've tried to record, and this is probably the 13th video that I've tried to record. Trust me, you don't want to see what my editing software looks like right now. Happy thoughts. Because I want this video to be happy, and even if I have to force happiness to come out today, or for the past week or so, even while still being gaslit by my family that 0 doesn't equal 0 in any of the languages that I learned or try to learn, because numbers are universal, I am choosing happiness, and while choosing happiness, I have been focusing on the things that make me happy. Unfortunately, I have not watched anime, but I've been playing video games. I've been writing my second book. I have been drawing and painting and doing some research on things that matter to me. It's unfortunate that I really, really would like to learn one language from my country, which at the time that I was there was 75 different dialects spoken, and I only spoke 2 languages. And I am now currently sitting at the possibility of learning one of the languages spoken in my country. I always make the point that if I was Hispanic, the idea that Spanish language would be my third would be outrageous, because I don't know how many people on planet Earth speak multiple languages like I do, 5. Apparently 1% of the people do, and the third language is the language spoken in their country, or their native, should have been their native tongue. In my case, it would be about my 7th or 6th language would be a native tongue. Thanks to imperialism, unfortunately, that is not my first language. Again, I implored, begged my parents to teach me that language, and they knew I didn't want to learn because I couldn't even learn my first language, which even at that time I spoke like 2 languages, so I'm not sure why my family was prescribing this idea that I couldn't learn. By the way, my family at the time, and for a long time, my mother specifically would call me retardada, which if you know multiple languages, you can kind of figure out what that word means. And she would call me stupid too, so that's always fun. 5 languages later, I call myself that, but that doesn't mean I believe it, because I know that not many people can speak and know and understand like 5 languages. But if I learned this native language from my country, it would actually not be my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. It wouldn't even be my sixth language that I've tried to learn. It'd be something ridiculous like my seventh or eighth. Realistically, I changed the order of how many languages I know and which languages are ordered when I understand more and more of the language enough to be fluent or consider myself fluent. I will never be able to read, so that is not true fluency, but it might get turned into my seventh or eighth language, which again, not many people speak a language of their country as an additional language to their first one or two languages. And that language is not the official language of my country because imperialism. Choose happiness. Clearly, I know I am compensating for something. Too many languages. No one needs to know. No one needs to know these many languages. I am faking it until I make it. Choose happiness. So that's what I'm doing today. Let's force some positive thoughts because it's not like I've been depressed for 3 months thanks to my family gaslighting me. I can't find my TV remote controller, unlike my depression. I've been trying to exercise a bit more thanks to these new supplements and diet and lifestyle changes. I've been able to exercise more than I have in years. It feels great. It feels good to exercise, for me at least. It also feels good to learn, so my mental capabilities are now being returned, as MS does also change my ability to learn. It makes it harder to remember things, so that's a thing that I'm focusing and choosing to focus on because I don't like being depressed, unlike some doctors that know that I am choosing depression. Why would anyone choose to be depressed? Like anyone who has a medical, clinical version of depression doesn't choose to be depressed. I really don't know who would choose that, but I'm telling you, it's not me. With the, not new, but the renewed brain activity and capability, I am repracticing certain languages that I already know, learning new languages, repracticing languages that I already know, and trying to do the things that I really enjoy doing because I'm forcing positivity. Realistically, not working as much as I would like to on my second book, but I am still working on that. I am also re-editing my first book, 102 chapters. Can you tell I'm compensating for something? Since Aunt Flo came to visit and she finally went away, I can try to focus more on myself again because I don't have the increase in hormones. Yay, I love hormones. If you cannot tell, I am not being sarcastic at saying I love hormones because although hormones in this case with my Aunt Flo, it makes it harder with my already chemically imbalanced brain, but it also is, hormones is a two-edged sword, double-edged sword, where hormones can be good or positive. The only difference is how much and how many and when. So I actually do like hormones, and I'm okay with them. I'm also okay with supplements, but some doctors also know that I don't like taking pills, even though I'm in like the 11th psychiatric medication that I've taken, but somehow doctors know that I don't. I'm not even willing to try. I know that English is not my first, second, or third language, but I'm not sure what that is if not the definition of trying. So, with the little bit of energy that I have, the little bit of false positivity that I'm injecting on myself, I'm going to try to edit this video and upload it, unlike the other 5,000 videos that I have not done that to. But, you know, who cares? Stay safe, choose happiness if you can, because that's what I'm doing, and peace. Bye. Ow.